go ahead and get started. So I know some of you are in line for coffee. Prioritize coffee. I'm all supportive of that. But just find a place as we get going. So, all right. Welcome to One Quick Coffee with Infomedia. So I know some of you are familiar with Infomedia, but in case you're not, we are a website service business. So we build and support websites. We support websites even sometimes that we didn't build. So if you have a site you want better support or hosting, or you want photo or video or copy, we do all of that. So we also have a podcast. This is the live event of our podcast. This is One Quick Coffee. Our podcast is called One Quick Question, because we can't serve coffee on a podcast. So if you want to get a replay of what you're going to learn here today, if you want to see the videos from any of the other events that we've had through the past season, we have all of that up there for you. So you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Okay, commercial over. Let's get started today. I'm going to restart this timer. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right, today we're talking about Recipe for Reels, a beginner's guide to Instagram's favorite formats. I'm going to be one of the speakers today. I'm Vice President of Strategic Planning at Infomedia, and we're also going to hear from Taylor Davis. She is our Client Account Manager, and Taylor also is a videographer, so she's going to be bringing some of that video experience to the talk today. And we're also going to hear from Elena Harmond. She's our marketing manager, and she's going to be bringing a social media specific perspective. So we're going to bring all that together for you. So in addition to our regular jobs at Infomedia, we also work together on the Localist podcast, which is the second podcast Infomedia produces, and there are only two. I'm not going to reveal another podcast. But so I'm the host of that. Taylor is our showrunner, and Elena is our promotions manager. I did want to mention we also have a fourth member, Jen Tucker. She's our outreach manager, and without her, we would not have guests, so she's pretty important. But she didn't work with us on the Reels strategy, and she doesn't like to speak in front of people, so Jen is very important. She's just not up here today. Okay, so why are we talking about the Localist podcast at all? It's because that's really what inspired this talk. So I started the Localist as a side project back in 2019, and I took a hiatus, and we started again through Infomedia in 2024. And that was great. I love the podcast. I'm glad we're doing it again. But what the real struggle for me was promoting it. Because back in 2019, I could just put up a graphic or a photo on Instagram, maybe do an Instagram story, and that's how I was promoting things. But skip to 2024, and if you're just putting up photos and graphics, Instagram is not going to be showing those to that many people. So we can do that sometimes, but we all knew that in order to promote the podcast, we were going to have to figure out Reels. Well, I'm a words person. I'm not really a digital person, or visual person. I like that I announced I was a word person and then messed up a word, but you get it. So this was a real struggle for me. This was a struggle for me because I'm trying to do a podcast, run a business. I'm not thinking about being a videographer, a scriptwriter, a cinematographer, all of these things. And I kind of had to deep dive into watching a bunch of YouTube videos, reading blogs, working with Taylor and Elena, and talking to a lot of other people about how can I actually make this work for me. And I was able to find formulas, or we're calling them recipes today, that made this a lot easier and made it so I wasn't having to reinvent the wheel every single time I needed to have a reel. And I knew this was a struggle for other local business owners because, our clients at Infomedia are local business owners, my friends are local business owners, my husband owns a local business. Basically, I know this is a huge struggle for a lot of people, and I felt like I kind of cracked a code, not on, today isn't going to be about, super professional reels that are going to perform the top metrics of anything that you'd ever see. Today is more a practical approach for doing some reels for your business or your personal brand. And so that's why we wanted to share it. So we're going to be talking about this from kind of a localist perspective. And then my Instagram handle is up there. It's C Rollwagon. The reason for that is because that's where we promote the Localist. So that's the Instagram that we're using. I could always use more followers, so feel free to follow me. But I'm really mentioning that because as we talk through today, you may want to look later and be like, oh, okay, well, I see the examples of these recipes that we talked about. Okay, that button doesn't do that. Sorry. All right, so starting off, define your why. So hopefully you do have the why for your business, and that is important. But today I'm kind of talking about what do you want Instagram to do for you. So I think the thing we normally are assuming when we think of what we want Instagram to do is that we want to get more Instagram followers. And that is something that you can go for. I think that's the default, like of course we want more followers. And that is fine. In some cases that is the metric that you want to go for. But not in every case, because if you're a brick and mortar business and you're the people who are coming to your business are primarily in the same area, like say you're a little professor, like most of your business is gonna actually walk in the doors. So if you get like 1,000 new followers in Paris, that's really cool. But Jonathan's like, yes, please give me these followers. But it doesn't do a ton for your actual sales in your store. Now, yeah, it gives you a little bit of a boost in the algorithm, but you're going to want to focus on a different strategy. You're going to want to focus on building a loyal following more than you're going to be looking at, is my follower count like jumping up all the time? And there are different strategies for both of these. So if your strategy is to get new followers, like say you think you want like national followers, international followers, this would be maybe if you have like a personal brand that you're building, if you have an e-commerce business where you have like, you can have customers from anywhere, then your strategy is gonna be using more trends, like trending sounds. If you see the kinds of, like we saw a reel, this seems like forever ago now, but when it's like, I'm a bookstore owner, so of course I blah, 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 like that kind of thing. You're gonna be wanting to lean into trends because when you lean into those trends, Instagram is gonna show your reel to more people and you can collect those followers. But if you're like a local business or your customers are local, you're gonna wanna focus more on building a local following. So it doesn't mean you can't do trends. It means that you can use them sparingly and you don't have to focus only on trends. You may want to focus more on having one or two people who are like, people are associating as the face of your business. So they're like connecting with you, you're building more loyalty that way. So you're gonna do a little of both no matter what, but it's good to know ahead of time, what is my main purpose here? Now, for a lot of us, what we're trying to do is send people off the platform. Like we want people to go to our website or go to our podcast. This is obviously a strategy that we use at Infomedia. We like websites a lot, so we want people to go to them, and we are using Instagram to promote the podcast. But it is important to know that Instagram doesn't want you to do this. Instagram wants people to stay on Instagram, just like Facebook wants you to stay on Facebook, even Google now, doesn't seem to want you to click off on pages. They want you to stay on that search page. So if you're using a free platform to promote, you can assume that they are going to punish you for sending people away from your platform. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't send people away. You can't link. It's a good idea to link in your stories. It's a good idea to have a link in your profile. But just know at least 50% of your content, probably more like 80%, needs to be content that's keeping people in the platform so that if every single thing you post is linking off, Instagram is not going to like that. They're going to punish you for it. So initially determine what are you using Instagram for? What is your why? And that will help you develop a strategy. Okay, so next think about what kind of content can you capture? Now, this is a little counterintuitive for me because I want to say, okay, what do we actually do the most of? Let's show this the most on Instagram. But that's not always possible because what you do might look boring visually. So, Infomedia designs and builds websites. That's actually really engaging work, but it looks like this. You can do a couple reels like that. You can't have every reel as somebody typing, So we will shoot people like having coffee in the break room, having a meeting, walking to Little Professor, having this event, because those things are more visual. I forgot to click this. But what do you do that's visually appealing? And this can be a stretch, and there's a little bit of experimentation here. So think about what you can do that's visually appealing and what can you repeatedly capture. Because if it's one event, it's going to be hard. Like, we do this event pretty regularly here, so we can use this regularly as a reel. But if we only did it one time, you can't be posting that one event like 6 months later. It's going to look weird, So like, what can you do that you can repeatedly capture? And then you kind of have to think about what message do you want to, how can you apply the message you want to get across to the visuals that you have? And it is a little tough to find what that sweet spot is. Okay. Decide how to store your video. I don't want to talk about this. I think it's boring. But it is important, and it's something that I skipped, and I really regretted it and had to do more work, so I want to mention it. Make a naming convention. So that just means name your files in a similar way that you understand what the system is. There's no magic formula. I researched it, and I couldn't find one. But just make it consistent so you can easily find these things that you're creating. And then decide where you're going to store your video. You want either an external hard drive or a service like Google Drive or Dropbox or both. But don't just make a plan to store these on your phone or your computer, because you're going to hit a ceiling really quickly. So just create some file folders in that system, make a naming convention, be better than me, or you'll spend 3 days trying to do this. Okay. So we know what we want Instagram to do for us. We know some visuals we can create and how we're going to store them. Now we start gathering content. So I did want to mention photos because, don't sleep on your photos, I guess is what I'm saying. You can turn photos into a reel. It's not the primary thing that you want to do, but a lot of us have way more photos than we have videos, and you can turn those photos into a reel. So make sure you know where those are and how you can pull those. But mostly, and this has been the biggest game changer for me in making reels doable, you're going to want to build a B-roll library. So B-roll, and this is oversimplified, so I'm not a videographer, but it's kind of just video of people who are not talking or talking to the camera. It's, you may be putting a sound over it or a song or whatever, but we're just kind of walking around and you just see that footage. What you want to do is build a B-roll library so you can pull from it. So I mentioned the recipes that are kind of the formulas that we use to put reels together. The B-roll library, to the metaphor, is the pantry of stuff. These are your ingredients that you're going to use to build the reels. So the best thing to do here is kind of be consistent with it. So for me personally, I post about local businesses. I also used to own a bookstore and coffee shop, so that's sort of part of my brand. And I also post about writing. So when I'm shooting B-roll, I'll just go to a coffee shop to work, like a normal coffee shop, and I'll set my camera up, which, yes, feels really stupid, but you have to do it. You're gonna feel stupid. Sorry, I should have had a slide on that. So I set my camera up, and I have my coffee. First, I set a laptop up. I type on the laptop for 20 seconds and film it. I try to smile or something or think oh, what a good idea I'm having, so there's something visually interesting. Then I put my laptop away, and I take my journal out, and I journal for 20 seconds. I have a lot of journal entries that say, I am filming a reel. That's what, you're what is Carrie writing? That's what I'm writing. Then I put my journal away, and then I take my coffee, and I look into space I'm having such deep thoughts, And then I put my camera away, and I do whatever I came for. But because I'm doing that, I'm in different locations, in different outfits, and now I'm building basically stock footage that I can pull from. So one example of using this is today's reel. So I thought I probably should post a reel because I'm doing a talk on reels. I didn't plan a reel because, I don't know, I had stuff going on. So I looked at my B-roll library. I found some B-roll of me making coffee. I found a trending sound to go with it, and then I thought of something to say. Like, it's a post about gratitude, but that's not how it started. It started and I don't like this. Like, I like to be like, let's start with the content, but with Reels, I feel like I can't do that. I have to start with, what do I have in my B-roll library? What sounds are trending? And then what am I inspired to post about from that? But it took me like 5 minutes to put that together, and that's like way shorter than Reels used to take for me. Okay, so once you have a B-roll library, you can make your recipes. So the 3 recipes we're going to talk about today are the 3 that I use the most, and the 3 that I think are really easy for almost any business to use. So I'm going to give like a really brief definition of each of these, and then each of us is going to kind of deep dive into the Reels. So I'm going to talk about the talking head, Elena's going to talk about trending sound, and Taylor's going to take photo and video. Okay, so by the recipe, I mean, again, a formula. So if you want to do the Reel that's like creative, if you have an idea and you want to create a whole piece, that's great. You can still do these things. But we're often just like tired and have other things going on. So it is so much easier for me to say, like, I have these 3 formulas and I'm going to plug stuff into these formulas. Okay, so the talking head, I think, is self-explanatory. You talk to the camera. We've seen this a lot. I'm going to skip to photo video clips. That is the one we probably see the most, where you're just seeing little clips of videos and they're put together to be a reel. Or you can do the same thing with photo. The trending sound, Elena's going to get into a little bit, but this one is the one that is the easiest for me, because I literally will find a trending sound, find B-roll from my library, put them together, just clip 7 seconds out of that and put some words on it. It's very easy. They perform just as well as any other reel for me, and sometimes a lot better, because sometimes you can catch that trend, and it's just like super, super simple. So these are the recipes we're going to talk about today. I think they can work for most businesses. Okay, how do you make a talking head video? I'll load eventually, but you'll just see similar to what I'm doing right now. You're talking to the camera. And we've all seen these, like, this is a lot of Instagram. If you can get over the awkwardness of being in front of the camera, or if you have another person in your business who can do that, by the way, someone who you think will stay with your business, because if they're who people are associating with your business and they're like a summer worker or something, that is going to be an issue. But like, if it's somebody who's been there for a while, somebody you can connect with, this can just be a pretty easy go-to video that you can create. Okay, so think about what is in your background would be the first thing to do. You can see my background here. It's not like you can necessarily see what's in it, but it looks pretty nice. I literally put my stuff in a pile and got Katie, who works for us, who's a stylist, to set it up for me, because this is not my forte. If you want to hire Katie, we can make that happen for your Zoom backgrounds and your Reels backgrounds. But if you don't have a Katie, I'm sorry. But also, you probably have a friend who's good at this, or you can just put your stuff in a pile, put a lot of different stuff, set it up behind you, set your camera up where it would be to take a reel, like the same orientation, take a picture, rearrange it, take another picture, do that 3 or 5 times, and then you can kind of see what looks good. So a lot of times I post about things that are like professional or local businessy, so so it helps me to have that background, and it's a nice go-to for me. But you don't have to have a nice background. And in some cases, it's actually better if you don't, because casual does read really well on the internet. I think this can be tough sometimes in our business, because like when I used to own Church Street, I didn't want to shoot casually in the kitchen, because it's like, who knows if we're really following the health department. Of course we followed the health department, but you don't know what's going on. It's easier for me to just have one set I can be in front of. But if you don't have that, casual can play really well. And one kind of hack for this is to film in your car. So we've all seen these influencers that it looks like they're just like in carpool line, or they're waiting for somebody to get out of Target. They're not doing that. They're just filming a reel. Maybe they're doing it. I don't know. But it looks casual because it looks like you're just like taking a minute to share what's on your mind. Also, because it's outside, it's generally pretty good lighting, and you have like a natural sound booth type of situation. So if you need a hack, you can just start filming in your car. Not while it's moving. please don't do that. Okay, keep it short. Try to wrap up, like, the platform will let you make a longer reel, but people won't watch your longer reel until you've really built up a following, probably. So try to keep it short. Millennials and older are known for blathering on and making everyone listen to our pauses. Try not to do that. Like, if your reel is like 90 seconds to a minute, that's probably just 2 reels. So lucky you, you can have 2 pieces of content. If it's just running a little bit over, you can pull it into something like CapCut, which Taylor will preview for us. You can easily cut out those pauses or when we say like or And it's okay that it's choppy, because choppy like performs really well on social media. It's better to cut it, make it shorter, even if it's a little bit weird, like it doesn't sound as natural, than it is to like be natural but have it be dragging on. Okay, so I mentioned Taylor, and now she's going to come up and tell us a little bit more about video and equipment and all that kind of thing.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much, Carrie, for showing us how to decide our why and organize our content. Very useful tips. But my name is Taylor Davis, and like she said, I am on the account development team here at Infomedia, and I'm just super excited to be talking to you guys about Reels today. Carrie? Okay, I'm going to have the same clicking issue as you. Okay. So starting off, before you begin filming content, it's super important that you decide on your equipment. Once you know your why, once you know what you want to shoot, you need to decide what you're actually shooting with, which we have a couple of examples right over here that can kind of help you understand what that equipment will look like. But you don't need a whole archive full of expensive equipment. What you really need is your iPhone, which I think a lot of us probably have. And especially if you have an iPhone 13 and above, because models that are 13 and above are actually equipped with a cinematic mode. And that cinematic mode allows you to adjust exposure, depth of field, and just overall make your videos look very, very professional. And you actually shot it with the iPhone, so that's a win. And the 2 most important factors to consider when you're shooting with your iPhone are, first of all, orientation, as well as your vertical resolution and your frames per second. So if you didn't understand what I just said, what it really means is you need to hold your phone a specific way, as well as adjust your camera settings. So the way you hold your phone for a reel is vertically, so with the receiver up and your microphone at the bottom. And I'm sure we've all seen it, these videos where there's like this annoying black bar at the top or potentially at the bottom. Looks really unclean, probably not the best for your reel. We also need to adjust our phone settings, and I have instructions here on how to do that. So basically you go to your settings, you go to camera, record video settings, and you select 1080p and 30 FPS, which is actually compatible with Instagram's uploading standards, and it avoids any compression or low-res videos being uploaded to your social media profiles. So the next piece of equipment that I want to recommend is a tripod. So I'm sure lots of us know what a tripod is. We've seen it. Carrie has one right here as well. It's a tri-legged stand that actually mounts your phone up and allows your hands to be free while you record. So if you're shooting alone, this is amazing. You can swivel on it, you can tilt on it, but you can also just use it as a stationary device, allowing you to free up your hands so you can focus on your shot itself. Also, I recommend a gimbal. So the gimbal is shown here, and a gimbal is also a mount, but it's a mount that you can move with. So if you're ever interested in walking through space or having some sort of panning or tilting motion with your camera, but you're concerned about shakiness and how smooth your actual visuals look, you can use a gimbal to kind of give some ease to that. And it also allows you to just generally move throughout space without any of the wobbliness that our hands typically have. And there's also a product on the market called the Osmo Pocket 3. So this is a slight investment, but it's not when you consider the fact that it's a gimbal, a tripod, and a camera all combined into one, which is super duper cool. And it actually is SD card compatible, and it has a slot for you to have an SD card in there for extra storage, and it even has a compatible app for you to send footage straight to your phone, and then you can just edit from there. Fortunately, Carrie, I'm not going to call you an expert on it, but she uses it super often. So if you have any questions about the Osmo Pocket, she is available after the talk to answer any of your questions. So after you have decided on your equipment, you know your why, it is time to plan for your shoot. So I plan for my shoots, I recommend to plan for your shoots with a B-roll shot list. And what this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a list. It can also look like a sketch or a brief sketch of all the shots that you're looking to capture. And this list just helps you organize your content, and it can also serve as a checklist for you to make sure that you don't forget any shots when you actually get to shooting. And all of your shots should align with one of the 3 categories, and I have examples here. It's me. But a close-up shot, a medium shot, and a wide shot. So the purpose of a close-up shot is to get intricate emotions or details, and it's really good if you want to show smaller actions in your videos. And then we also have a medium shot, which shows a subject, but it also gives a little bit of context as to where your subject actually is as well. And then you have a wide shot that shows a subject down the line, but it also gives like 75% more coverage of the actual setting. It's also really important to note that people love seeing people in content. I cannot emphasize this enough. So it's really great if you showcase your employees or people that you work with in your content, because it'll allow you to connect with your followers just a little bit more. So I also recommend when you are shooting to shoot approximately 10 to 15 seconds of content, but surprise, you're only going to use about 2 seconds of that content, which I know I've heard sounds crazy, but in the age of media, we all have slightly shorter attention spans. So it's good to pack a lot of smaller clips into a longer piece of content just to keep it engaging. Next, I'm going to move into movement for your shots. So shot movement adds an extra layer of interest along with the shot types. So different movements that you can explore with are, like I mentioned earlier, panning, tilting, following, which can all be smooth using the devices that I mentioned as well. But first of all, panning. So basically panning is maintaining a central axis and moving your camera from left to right or right to left, as seen in the example here. And this is great for showcasing landscapes, rows of objects, or rows of people. You can also explore with tilting, and I like tilting because it adds this like super dramatic effect of like slowly revealing something, which I think is really interesting. Or maybe if an object is too large to fit into frame, you can start from the top of it and move to the bottom. And then the last one is my most favorite, and it's actually a following shot where the cameraman is eye level with your subject, and they walk either behind or beside, and they follow a subject throughout space, which can give this super immersive feel to your video and make your viewers feel like they're actually in the video with your subject. So to add one more extra layer of footage or layer of interest to your videos, you can also explore with time-lapse in slow motion. So time-lapse is taking a super fast movement and slowing it down so your viewers can focus on the smaller details that are happening inside of your video. And then you can also explore with slow motion, which slows down. Did I just say that one? Okay, reverse. Okay, the time lapse speeds up super slow motion so you can actually just get an overarching idea of what this movement is without having to watch, I don't know, hours of footage. So, okay. Slow motion and time lapse are features on your video and camera. So you can select slow-mo, you can select time lapse, so you can record, get your content, and the effect is automatically applied. But in some scenarios, you may want to apply an effect that you can't just click a button on your iPhone in order to do, and that's when editing software comes into play. So once again, in the new media age, there are plenty of editing softwares that are available to all of us, and it can kind of feel overwhelming. There's so much, you don't know what's good, and YouTubers tell you what to use. But two major recommendations that I personally have are CapCut and Canva, which both of these ladies use very often. So if you have any questions, we're available for that as well. But CapCut allows you to add filters, text, transitions, a surplus of editing tools to your actual videos. And they also have templates, which are kind of a cheat code, and sometimes they're ineffective, but they can be really useful if you're editing on the go and you just want to import some footage and get a quick result and you don't have much time to invest. You can also explore with Canva. So Canva does edit videos, and this is a more reputable resource to use. I mean, it makes simple graphics, and it turns them into, it looks like you freelanced a designer to make them super easily. It also has AI technology enhancements, which can allow you to make super complex edits with a click of a button. So I recommend both of these. They're beginner-friendly, expert-friendly, and super easy to use. Okay, I'm gonna get into the second recipe for a reel. Now that you know what you're shooting, you know what you're going to use to shoot, what you're going to use to edit, you can make your next recipe. So this is the video and photo clip reel, basically putting videos and photos together and rearranging them until you like them. So number one, start off with your story, your subject, or your storyline, and decide on this because this will determine the entire direction for your project. And once you do that, you can go ahead and go into your B-roll that you've organized as Carrie has suggested, and this will allow you to easily mentally bookmark all of the footage that's relevant to the video that you're looking to produce. And you can also put that in a separate folder. Say the name of your reel is Workday. You can make a Workday folder and put all that footage in that one folder, so when it's time to import it into your editing software, you can easily grab it. So once it's in a folder, you can go to your editing software and import all of that footage onto your timeline, and you're going to begin to cut down those clips. Like I said, approximately 2 seconds. They don't all have to be 2 seconds. I believe that every video has a good part, and you feel it. Like when you watch the video, you can actually feel like this is what I need to include in my video. I would trim off the excess from that clip and then begin rearranging. If you have a storyline, you can build out your story arc by rearranging the clips, or you can kind of just adjust them to your liking. You feel it once you have the proper flow with a mix of shots, with a mix of movement, you can go ahead and move into sound as well. So in order to give a little bit more strategy on sound, which can enhance the mood and the impact of your reels, I'm going to welcome up Elena to talk more about tips.
Thank you, Taylor. So as Taylor said earlier, and Carrie talked about, we have a little bit shorter attention spans in this day and age, and we also have tons of options for sounds that we can choose, and you can totally change the vibe of your reel based on the sound you choose. So you really want to make sure that you choose something that captures your audience and also fits the vibe of your video. But before you choose a sound, it is important to make sure that you have rights to the music. So if you're using a business account on Instagram or TikTok, you might be restricted from using certain sounds, but if it's showing up in your library for you to use, you should be good. And you can also use trending sounds. So these are the ones that kind of go viral, or they're just trending on Instagram and they have tons of reels. A lot of times they're just a normal song, but sometimes it's more of like the meme content. But you can use these sounds to increase your visibility. So by using a trending sound, you are basically telling Instagram, my content is relevant, it's timely, and Instagram is going to show your reel to more people if you use a trending sound. And if you're not sure where to find those, I'm going to show you on the next slide. So you could just open Instagram, and to get to the Reels icon, just click that little icon at the bottom. That's the little video. And as you're scrolling through Reels, you'll see that some sounds have this little arrow next to them that's on the left of the sound right there. That indicates that a sound is currently trending. And so if you want to see a list of all the current trending audio, just click on a sound that has the arrow next to it, and then you'll see that it takes you to the audio page where you can see the most relevant reels using that sound. And then from there, you just click the little trending button, and then you'll see a list of all the trending audio. And it shows you them in order of relevancy and popularity, and you can see how many reels are created using each of those sounds. So it's August right now, so August is for sure trending. And you can also see, like, if it has millions of views like that, it's going to be a little bit harder to increase your visibility with the ones that are very, very viral like that. So generally sticking with kind of the, like, you know, the number 2 through 5, like that many views is good, and those generally mean that they are, like, relevant right now. So now let's talk about creating a trending sound video. So first, you want to find a trending audio to use. And remember, when you're looking for this sound, you can totally change the vibe of your video with the music you choose. So pick something that fits the mood that you're going for. And then find 7 to 10 seconds of B-roll or photos. You can trim these down during the editing process and into kind of those choppier edits, or as Carrie was talking about earlier with just the video of the coffee being made, like that totally works for a trending sound as well, and keeps it very simple and easy to make. And so once you've got your B-roll, then you can add captions or text on the video. And you can either just do this in the caption, or you can add text actually on your video. And I'm going to talk more about that now. So once you have edited your reel and you've got all of your videos and photos edited together, you'll need to create a cover slide. And if you don't want to use a still from your video. So a lot of times you can just choose a still that's like someone's face if you've got a great shot of them smiling or something in the video. But the cover slide is what shows up on your Instagram profile grid. So sometimes you might want to tell people a little bit of a preview of what the reel is going to be about, or have a title, or you just want the graphic to match with your branding that's on the rest of your Instagram feed. So for that, you can make a cover slide in Canva. Canva makes it super easy to create graphics that match your branding. So yeah, that's what you can do if you can't find a still that works. And next, once you have all of your assets and your cover, you need a caption to go with your reel. So 92% of users actually watch videos without sound. So if you think about when you're opening Instagram, usually your phone's on silent if you're in a public place. And so utilizing on-screen text and captions is a great way to show relevant information if you don't have like a voiceover or a recorded sound. So this refers to text that displays in your video itself, not just in the caption. You can add that text via Instagram by just using the features at the top like you would be when you're editing like an Instagram story, or you can also add that in your editor if you're using CapCut. And then Instagram also has an automatic closed captions feature. So I'll play this video. You can see once you're in the Reel editor, just click that sticker icon at the top and then click on captions. And it'll basically automatically transcribe it for you, but you can go word by word and scroll down and make sure that all of the words are correct. Sometimes it does have errors, so you'll definitely want to check that. Oh, I forgot to click these. You can also drive traffic to your website or to another place like your podcast or a YouTube channel by including a call to action in either the caption or in the on-screen text. But as Carrie was talking about earlier, Instagram does not want you to leave Instagram. So if you are trying to do a call to action, just keep in mind that Instagram doesn't allow clickable links in the caption. So if you do put a link there, it's basically useless. No one can click on it. So you'll have to direct people to either a link in your bio or a link in your story. And if you do that, just make sure to actually add the link in your bio because you wouldn't want people going and be like, oh, well, I guess I'm just staying on Instagram like they want me to. And then as far as hashtags go, the best practices that are recommended by Instagram is to use 3 to 5 hashtags that are relevant to the topic of your video. So you can use hashtags to attract traffic that may be interested in your content, A lot of times using local hashtags like Birmingham, Alabama, or things like that, or events in Birmingham, for example, is one that I would have used for this, for promoting this event. So anything that is relevant, you can add those in your caption, and you can just use Instagram search or just type in the hashtags to see how many posts go with each one and to find the best tags to use.
Thank you guys very much for coming. Next month is our last one of the season, and I'm going to be talking again. So if you like me, you'll show up. I'm just kidding. We're going to be talking about newsletters. And when somebody told me, like many people were like, you need to start a newsletter, and I was like, that sounds dumb. I don't read email, and nobody else does either. And I was wrong. So I started it a couple years ago, and it's actually been like a really, really useful tool for me and for Infomedia separately as well. So we're going to talk about like how to build a newsletter for your business. You can sign up for my newsletter if you want to get a preview. I'm pretty sure there's a link in bio. At C-Roll Wagon on Instagram. And then we hope to see you guys back next time. I think you can already sign up for that. And then find us on One Quick Question or The Localist. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks.